open it up to maybe a Q&A. Are there folks that have questions that they wanted to, or comments that they would like to share with the artists or anything? I have questions, but I wanted to make this a dynamic experience if possible. Great, yes. Okay, so I'll start. I wrote some questions that I sent out to y'all, and you can answer as if you want to. My favorite question that I wrote, I'm going to start with because it's me. And again, only if you want to answer, if you have something to say. So since y'all are all queer identified, I was really interested in how does your queerness intersect with your fatness? Does being queer open up new possibilities for fatness? And does being fat open up new possibilities for queerness?
Yes. Well, okay, so right, like I think being queer, not all of us, but I think part of being queer is being incredibly open-minded and open-hearted and being really open to see beauty in a different way, to see desire in a different way, to even imagine, like, we have different, like, cultural rituals and practices and pastimes and coming of age things. We have scenes, we have language, and just the ripeness and the juiciness of that willingness to be open means that, oh God, I forgot the question. What?
Does being queer open up new possibilities for fatness? Does being fat open up new possibilities for queerness? I'm going to add how.
Oh, yes. So I do think that for me, being queer gives me the opportunity, just like, I chose to love anatomies that, like, my parents thought. Like, I remember being about 15. I was one of those baby dykes, like a 5-year-old that's like, Mommy, will you love me if I'm a lesbian? Vanessa, you don't know if you're a lesbian or not. I'm like, I like Ariel and her, see Ursula. Right, so just like being open to being attracted to anatomy, like for me, like opened it up even further to be attracted to fat anatomy, to be attracted to genderqueer and trans anatomy, to be attracted to people who like adorn and decorate and free their bodies in ways that I never even imagined possible. And yes, like being queer absolutely engages with my fatness because I feel like in my specific queer community, the cishet patriarchy is the devil. And so, so when I like choose to abstain from those standards or whatever they do to inform our desire, I just feel like it gives me more cool points and like cool people like that person likes me more, which leads to more queer things like queer sex. So, and love and etc.
And fat sex.
Huh?
Fat
and
sex.
Fat sex, queer fat sex. So yes. I don't know. I might have just rambled.
I could say something. It's hard to follow, Vanessa, but I would just say something along the lines of the like growing up trans and fat and queer. Like I never knew why people were staring at me, whether it was like because I looked gay or because I was fat. And so there's like a lot of similarities in like the ways that like straight culture and straight society kind of like both straight-sized people and straight sexuality people, how they interact with me. And so I think that really kind of, I don't know, it's just like that combination. It's like never knowing. So it just makes it all the more like, really juicy and like succulent when you get together with a bunch of queer and trans fat folks, because it's like you're all seeing each other for like you're seeing each other through a whole different lens that doesn't include any of those like I'm sure it includes some judgments, but yeah, I don't know, just like there's a lot of similarities, and yeah.
I think my first experiences with fat community were in the queer community, especially with my art being really sad about trauma. Folks were more supportive for the most part, and the folks that were the most supportive were fat and marginalized folks. And so that has been really beautiful to have that. And femme community too, finding femmes who looked at my body and they were like, your body's beautiful, and finding folks where we do that with each other. We're like, I love your body, and go back and forth, and that's been really wonderful and supportive.
Can I add another thing? So when I first moved to San Francisco, I was 20 years old, and I was desperately looking for like queer community. I didn't know anything other than the Castro, and like those old men quickly told me that I did not belong there. So I was like searching, and then I came across this event called Fairy Butch. Does anybody in here remember Fairy Butch? Yeah, Red, you remember? Fairy Butch was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was like this chubby, like trans guy was Fairy Butch, and he was nasty and dirty and invited people to come play Truth or Dare on the stage with them. And there were burlesque dancers, and they were all fat. And they were all gender variant, and I had never seen fat people being naked. And it wasn't a joke on like, I don't know, Martin or somebody making fun of us. Like, I just never saw it. And they were like naked, and they were sexy, and they were also creative and doing dances on bicycles and all kinds of wild stuff. And little 21-year-old me is like, you have given me permission. It is not okay. And it was just like, damn, queerness and fatness, and like, it was, ooh.
Thank you. Do we have a question maybe from somebody in the audience?
I have do I stand up?
No.
Hi. So I have a question specifically about Shook's documentary. I wanted to know during the filming of the documentary, like, what were some of the... I was just curious because I was like, oh, this would be dope if I could actually maneuver my way around the woods and the rocks and the stuff. So, like, I'm a former photographer. I wanted to know what were some of the, like, things you had to map out and plan just so people would be taken care of? And also, like, what were some of the experiences with, like, that's something, like, I was just thinking about myself in it. Like, I would want to do that. Also, I'm scoptophobic, you know, so, did anyone, in the process of being, like, so kind of, like, vulnerable in creating this art out of themselves, did anyone have vulnerable moments, and how did you guys move through those? Like, was this a cathartic experience for anybody, or for you even?
That was a great question. Thank you.
Hi. I'm not sure what scoptophobic means.
Like, afraid to be stared at, photographed.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, a lot of the people who come to be photographed by me have never been photographed nude, like most of the majority, unless it's like someone I'm taking photos of again, or it's very rare. So a lot of times there's a lot of, the kind of situation I like to create is one of like, let's all hang out and talk for a bit. So there's not like jumping right into anything, and there's also just like this understood thing that I like to state at the beginning that's just like, you get like as nude as you want to. It's up to you. Like if you want to be in underwear, if you want to be in full dress, that's fine. Like it's up to you, you know? So it's kind of like really on everyone's terms what they feel like doing. And there's still people who definitely like are super shy. Here's the thing, I'm a very goofy person. And so I just be very goofy. It's not like I'm serious at all, and I just make jokes all the time. And then hopefully I think that helps people to like loosen up, or, you know, and I'll just take photos. I don't have people pose often. A lot of times I just take photos as people are doing different movements. And so there's not like a lot of like having to make your face a certain way. Just like do whatever you want. Be a freak, you know? As far as like figuring out accessibility stuff, I just know the Florida Springs because I grew up there.
I was
So
gonna ask if you were in Florida because I saw the gator sign.
yeah, that's Florida. So Florida has like 72 freshwater springs that are public, and there's like 277 total, but it's the most in the whole world, the largest concentration of freshwater springs. And so I basically just know the ones that are walk-in. So basically that one, it has like a tiny step down, but there's also like a walk-in area. I'm thinking about it right now. Some of them have a lot of steps, and some of them have none, and some even have chair lifts into the spring, so it's kind of cool. And so yeah, that was just like one that you could we parked in a parking lot, you had to walk down a hill, but it was not too steep or anything, and then you can just walk right into the water. Yeah.
Did anyone else know the Florida Springs aside from you?
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 Floridians in that shoot.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I have a question for Trisha. First off, your work was so beautiful.
That's right.
It was just like incredibly gorgeous, incredibly moving. I was grateful for the opportunity to cry with you. I was grateful for the opportunity to meet your brother in such a human way and a whole way, and to see your love for him. I was mad as fuck at the museum. I'm still trying to emotionally cope. And I'm curious about how you took care of yourself, and how you managed to lean into resilience, and how your creativity might have played with your resilience when they took the money away from you. Like what kept you going in that moment?
Gosh, so initially when I got the call, the 2 people who ran the gallery called me and wanted to talk about the art, and stated that my body got in the way of the message. And I just heard them and was like, okay, I'm pretty nice. So I was like, cool, I'll get back to you. And then I wrote this really angry letter that I had so many friends read. I was like, does this sound too mean? And funny enough, I'm still up on their website as a grant recipient.
Wow.
Yeah, so the letter was they never responded to it. And I was really mad for a year, and I pouted, and I quit making art. And then my mom started getting sicker, and so, like I said, I started doing a lot of archiving, and I take a lot of photographs. When my mom passed away, I took photographs of everything in her house, how it was. I started to work on new projects, on shadow boxes, with photographs of my father and I as a child, trying to find his humanity, looking at things from different ways, and also just setting better boundaries when I do shows and when I work with galleries, when I have installations, really trusting my voice more, knowing that I can say no and fuck you. So really just standing up for myself more.
Thank you. Is there anyone in another audience with another audience member with another question, maybe?
I have a question. I can yell. Y'all don't have to. Right. Thanks.
Hi, rock stars.
I'm curious what each of your relationships are to the word fat.
Anybody else want to start? Okay. Well, I am that. And it's interesting. I think it took me many years to really feel comfortable calling myself fat and not feeling like I was selling myself short. I had to watch a lot of people that I loved and respect do it first. And I had to really sit with myself. I had so many nicknames. One of my favorite was Lush Body, because I really needed to define my body as beautiful. And it was hard for me to see the word fat beautiful. But there was another thing that happened to me in my late 20s, early 30s. I started to realize that fat was a huge part of my sexual attraction. And as I started to realize how much I desired fatness, looking at it, touching it, licking it, cuddling it, being with people who had it, it started to feel more beautiful because it became my aesthetic and my desire. And so in that, also, it changed the way I kind of saw my own body and how I talked about it. So like, I was like, yeah, I'm fat. I love the nicknames. I think anything squishy and adorable is adorable. But also like I'm fat. And it's not a medical issue. It's not a problem. It's not a thing that I need to get rid of. It's what makes me cute. I think from my own perspective of cuteness. And also like just objectively, it's like a social descriptor for my body. And it's a great word to put in poems. And also PHAT. I grew up with it. I like it too.
I think for years I avoided it. I avoided the word fat. It's been the past 2 years that I've used it, and I work in a really conservative environment, and when I use it, people are always like, you know. And then I have to follow it up with, it's cool, I like myself, this is an okay thing to say, and it's become a lot of work to reassure folks who aren't okay using it or saying it. And I think that that's okay. I hope one day it's normalized and we can all use it with comfort. But yeah.
I think the first time I saw it used in a positive way, I just moved to Philadelphia from Florida, and there was a flyer up at this coffee shop, and it said, "Come to the fattest day of the summer." And it was an event, and I was very confused. I thought it was like making fun of something, of fat people. And I looked at the flyer, and there's fat people on the flyer, and I was like very, just thrown off. But I went, and that was good. So.
Thank you. We'll take maybe one more question. I saw a hand over here. Okay.
What advice do you have for people in a body positivity world that's sometimes being co-opted by straight size people or skinny people when that movement wasn't originally built for them? We want people to actually love fat people, not just sing Lizzo and say that they love her, but you have to actually love fat people. What do you suggest for us to bring that to our social media, to our friends, to just anything? What would you say for advice?
I love this question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Call them out. I'm really loud about it, and I found that I started to be kind of passive aggressive, but I've had a couple friends write me and thank me for the memes I post. So I post lots of things about that. But I was at a party, and there was a friend that was calling herself fat, and I didn't in the moment, but I did follow up with a conversation about it. So I think if you need to have that later, not in that moment, that's okay. Sometimes that doesn't always feel safe.
I mean, I just ignore those people. I just don't pay any attention to people who don't. I mean, that's a bad idea, I guess. You're supposed to pay attention to them. But it's just like, people that really want to feel marginalized real hard. So they just like take on this thing like, oh, I'm so skinny and I get bullied for this, and I need to have body positivity and blah, blah. It just happened to me last night, actually. I got a whole story about how it was so hard growing up skinny. So yeah, for that, I'm just like, really? I'm just like, oh, but you could fit in the desk at school? Oh. I'm like, oh, but you could shop in the regular store? Cool. And just kind of play it that way. I mean, I'm a sarcastic asshole.
So on Twitter, I follow Shug. And oh no, not Twitter, Instagram,
Yeah.
social medias, the social medias. And the way that I started following Suge was my doctor. I was having some body image stuff. I got really sick this year, and in the this last year or 2 years, and in the process of getting really sick, I gained a lot of weight, and I've always been fat, but I gained more weight. And while gaining weight, I also lost strength and the ability to do things. And so those two things happening at the same time really like kind of sent me into a spiral of shame and embarrassment. And I started thinking about all of the negative things that I heard growing up from family and loved ones and parents, and just couldn't get out of my feelings of shame. And I was talking to my doctor about it, and she was like, well, dear, I have a prescription for you. It's on Instagram. Have you ever heard of Sugarlet? I want you to go follow Sugarlet. And I did not know Sugarlet at the time. And then I did, and I started seeing Sugarlet's pictures, or Suge's pictures, and I was just like, it was everything. It was so wonderful seeing those naked bodies, seeing them in water, seeing them in so many different environments. And I was like, this is what I need to share, And Fat Lip Inc. started releasing their amazing t-shirts and their amazing bags and clothing and even dresses, And I just started thinking, oh my God, there's so many lush, thick, fat, super inventive, fat, corporal people who are taking up all kind of size on the internet, and I'm going to repost their pictures, and I'm going to talk about them the same way that other people talk about their favorite skinny model or whoever. I'm just gonna fucking lust and adorn and celebrate them and appreciate them and take my pictures of my belly and my butt, and right where my butt meets my cheeks and my cheeks bulge and then they hang a little bit over my knee, and just show that shit off like it's everything. I started putting naked pictures of my partner on the internet. Just sure, you be body positive all you want, but I'm gonna surround myself with fatness that is just fully full and existing, and not just existing in pain too, right? Because that's a part of that narrative. Oh, well, it's me. I'm 14, size 14, and no one likes me. I'm size 2, and everyone makes fun of me. And I'm like, look at me and my fat ass friend smoking weed and having a good time. Look at this amazing organization, doing radical shit, making sure everybody has accessible seats on the bus. Just really, lifting up those people who are doing the work and celebrating them like they're in sync. And if you don't like in sync, we don't need to talk.
Amazing. We're gonna, this feels abrupt, but we're gonna end there.
End with Lizzo!
I wanna encourage everybody to go home and smoke weed with your fat friends after this event, as a way to spread the good word of fatness. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming and making the MCC and also Berkeley much fatter. Congratulations and good night.